monitoring that?
No, maybe not. I think this is January 18th. It's
23rd, the 3rd?
23rd.
No, 16th.
It is
16th, it's an earlier one.
Thursdays in January.
Oh, my.
Hello, if
So
everyone's
is it
watching.
the 16th or the second last?
It's the third Thursday.
Okay, so only 16th.
16th.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think we are all neat and pretty, so on with the show. Welcome, everyone, to our last Community Connections of 2024. So thank you so much for joining us. My name is Jeremy Capone. I'm the Wellness Chef for Cancer Rehab and Survivorship, and joined, as always, the incredible Daniela Verini. Hello,
The
Daniela.
sweetest. Hi. This is exciting today. So what we're doing today, December 19th, close to the holidays, close to the winter solstice this weekend. Hanukkah and Christmas are on the same day. We thought we would talk a little bit about managing fatigue during the holidays. So this affects people, and everyone is affected by it, right? But then if you have cancer, undergoing treatment, if you're a caregiver, it can seem a little bit more overwhelming. So today we thought we'd share some nutrition and cooking tips that can actually help manage fatigue, conserve energy while you're in the kitchen during the holidays. And as per usual, we're introducing 3 new and festive recipes that Jeremy has created. And so we'll just get ahead with our first recipe, right? So our first recipe is a cheesy cabbage gratin. And as we've learned from some audience members and moi, we already have a head of cabbage in the fridge ready to be used.
Everyone has.
Excessive.
Yeah.
An excessive amount. So this make-ahead, easy-to-prepare dish is rich in protein, several vitamins and minerals, fiber, health protective, and immune-boosting nutrients. And a meal that contains protein and fiber can actually slow down digestion, help to regulate your blood sugar, and together what this can do is actually help to maintain your fatigue and to reduce your fatigue, not maintain your fatigue, reduce your fatigue and maintain your energy levels. And this dish, you can have it on its own, you can have it as a side at the holiday meal, or you can also have it as a snack. And we know that when your appetite is poor, smaller portions are easier to manage. We talked about that in our class yesterday. So this is a great choice for that too. It's enough about me. We'll get into the recipe with Jeremy.
All right, so it's festive time.
Mm-hmm.
It's holidays. You might be hosting. You might be going to a party. So these recipes today are tend to be maybe a little more festive, a little more special, a little more elevated. And sometimes that comes with a lot more work in the kitchen, a lot more prep in the kitchen. So like Daniela mentioned, if you're dealing with fatigue, probably write these, more elaborate recipes off right away. There's just no time or energy to make them. So what I want to talk about today from the cooking perspective is how we can sort of plan and get ahead of the day, either we're hosting or going to out, so that we don't have to do it all at once. We don't have to have all that stress, all that running around on the day of, okay? So for the first recipe, yes, we're talking about cabbage. Everyone has a cabbage. No one wants to cook the cabbage. Cabbages are boring. We're going to make it a little bit more exciting, a little bit more enticing. And these are, so I'll break this recipe down into sort of 3 main steps for the full thing. And these can all be done in advance, like I mentioned, which is great. So for the cabbage, different varieties that you can choose from. You have these ones, the kale, right? The black kale or the dinosaur kale, which is beautiful, has all these nice ridges and ribs in them. You can get the Savoy cabbage, you have your purple cabbages, your green cabbages, so many different varieties, right? To prep them, and you can choose like different ones, or you can just focus on one. I just, for the color, making it pretty, I chose 2 different tones of green. It is important to wash these well because of all the little crevices, especially with this kale, all the little crevices inside. So just, cool running water, but just sort of get in there with your fingers just to make sure that you get any dirt that's out of there washed up. And then with these, this type of kale especially, with these like ribs, these thicker ribs, we want to remove that. And so the best way to do it is sort of pinch the leaves from the bottom with one hand, and then you pinch the ribs with the other, and just tear away about an inch of it. And then you can, while holding that stem, you can sort of just tear the rest of it off, and then that rib, which is really, really tough, you can compost, and the rest is good to use. Okay.
You can conduct the holiday fire.
Oh yeah, if you want to keep it for
I'm
props.
a little silly today.
For
Sorry.
props, for sure. So the key to getting ahead of the day, doing some of this prep in advance, and not just with kale. This is with like any like veg. Really, this works really well. Is to do either a pre-blanch or a pre-steam. So we're going to essentially par cook this. Okay, and what that means is we can get about 50%, 60% of the work done cooking it, and then it's much easier to finish it off the day of or whenever we need it. Okay, so blanching is when we are adding the ingredients to boiling water for a very short amount of time, so like 60 seconds to 90 seconds. And especially with these delicate leaves, we don't need much time. If we're doing something like parsnips, carrots, potatoes, which we can absolutely use this technique as well, then we'll cook them just until they're sort of knife or fork tender. So that might take a few minutes, but just to sort of soften. Okay. And if you prefer to steam, you can do that as well. We're going to add a little bit of salt to the boiling water, and then we'll go ahead and add our cabbage in. Just make sure that it is submerged.
You got your ice water bath ready.
And then make sure you have your ice water ready to go. Okay, so about 90 seconds. It doesn't take much time at all. But the ice bath is really important because when I take it out, I want to stop the cooking immediately. Yes,
Do
question.
you have a question?
Is it that 90 seconds is all the time that it's boiling, or from the time that you put it there? Because it takes the boiling temperature down when you just put it there.
Yes, if it takes it down a bit, you can estimate about 90 seconds. What I would say is to test it out, the thick part of the core, you'll find, especially in the cabbage, you can take either a knife, and if it inserts easily, it's done. Or if, even with your finger, like if it's hot, obviously you don't do it, but if it's softer, like it almost squishes completely, then it's done. Okay, so that's how you can sort of test it out. But generally about 90 seconds. It doesn't need too much time. Okay.
Good question.
Yes, great question. The ice bath, we're gonna transfer the cabbage into, and that's going to stop the cooking. This is also really important for any green vegetables. So any vegetables that have that chlorophyll in them, by shocking them with that ice water, we're sort of setting that color. Okay, so it's going to be really nice and vibrant green, even if I'm going to serve this the next day or even 2 days after. Okay, so I can sort of have it part cooked. A lot of that work is done, and then we sort of shock it. If I'm using starchier vegetables, like if I want to par cook my parsnips in advance or potatoes in advance, I don't have to use that cold shock method. I can just sort of let them cool naturally at the room temperature and then transfer them into the fridge.
And what about the red or purple cabbage? Do you have to shock them?
Yeah, that'll help too. That'll keep it really nice and vibrant. Keep in mind that anytime you're introducing that purple color, everything's going to be purple.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so just be aware. Like if that's fine, no problem. Or if I'm just doing purple, no worries. The green will not look as green if you also have purple.
Okay.
So you can either, if
So
you
good
do
point.
want to do it, you can do it separately, or just do purple, or you know what, everything's purple. That's fine.
Yeah,
I like
If,
purple.
you know, we're talking about convenience and fatigue, so stick to the one color.
Yeah.
Do something else that's purple.
Yeah.
Maybe the cranberries.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So this has had enough time. I will do my best not to make a mess, but it's going to happen. I'll transfer it right to the ice water to shock. Right, and again, you can do this with other greens, not lettuce greens, but any greens that you would cook. You can do this and let it cool down. So now the temperature is coming down, and then you can transfer this to sort of a draining rack, or spin it in the salad spinner just to dry it up, and then transfer it into the fridge.
He has a fridge under.
I have a little fridge here. It's my little magic fridge. So you can see, so I did this yesterday. See, that color is still beautiful. Really, really nice and green, really nice and vibrant. But now all that, most of the cooking is already done. So it's ready to use for my dish.
Now I saw that you had a paper towel over that. Was
Mhm.
that just to cover it while it's in the fridge, or does that help maintain some of the
It'll
crispness?
help to absorb some extra moisture off of it. Yeah, I want to take as much moisture and much of that water off as possible. If there's a little bit on it, it's fine. So just having it on there will help to absorb some extra water. So that is our veg for our dish. The next part, second component, is our hazelnuts. You can do this with other nuts as well if you prefer. Hazelnuts for me remind me of like just the winter and like holiday time. Yeah,
Reminds me of
absolutely.
Nutella.
Exactly.
I
I think
have to say.
maybe that's why. Maybe that's why. So we're going to use
Oh.
the hazelnuts
Okay.
for our last two
I
sort
looked
of
at that.
components. You're good. You're good right there. Come in. You got to be in the shot.
But I'm going to be very close.
So the hazelnuts will finish off the last two components of the dish. So half of the hazelnuts. So we're using about a cup in total. Half of the hazelnuts we'll soak in some hot water. You can just use a tea kettle. You can use broth if you want a little more flavor in there. Soak it for like 5-10 minutes. And you can even do that, again, in advance. Okay? And then after it's been soaked, it sort of softens up and the hazelnuts sort of plump up a little bit. I'm going to add it to the blend. Now, traditionally, with the gratin, or gratiné, you would have some, like a cream at the bottom, right? Which you can absolutely use in this, especially if you're trying to, I guess,
Increase calories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you need more.
but if, let's say, maybe you don't do so well with dairy, right? You don't dance with dairy. So we'll change it up, and this is a nice little option, nice little substitute, but we're also going to get this like really nice sort of hazelnut toasted flavor in it as well. So the soaking water plus the hazelnuts in there, add a little bit of Dijon mustard, which I love. It just has this really nice sort of,
Never think of hazelnuts with
Vibrancy.
Dijon.
no,
So we'll be tasting that today,
Yeah.
those of us that are here.
yeah, it has this really nice sort of, like not an overwhelming heat, but it has this like nice sort of vibrancy that will help to pick up some of the flavors. A little pinch of salt and blend that.
And you know, while you're doing that, we talked about fiber. And so if we look both at cabbage and hazelnuts, about a cup of the cabbage gives you 2 grams of fiber. And if we look at about an ounce of the hazelnuts, so that would be like 20 kernels if you were to add them out. I don't know how many he has in there, but 20 kernels has about 2.5 grams of fiber. So a little bit at a time, you're upping your fiber intake for the day, and it's increasing it in this meal for you.
Yes. Also, hello again to those at home watching. If you have any questions,
Yes.
you can write it in the chat. I'm keeping an eye on it, so I'll answer. Okay, lid on top. So we have that soaked hazelnuts with a little bit of that water, a little pinch of salt, a little Dijon, a little black pepper, and we will blend it. This is cooled down a bit because it's in advance. Anytime we're sticking hot liquids in the blender, always keep the top a little bit ajar, like this, and then put like a clean dish towel over top. Okay, we need to let that steam out. If we do not let that steam out, this will make its way out one way or the other.
I'm looking at our ceiling.
Yeah, no accidents in the wall. We have some past maybe, but it has cooled down, so it's okay. But you know what? I don't trust myself. I want to blend this until it's really smooth.
So when I was at home, I could mute them, but now I can't.
There's no mute.
No mute button on
No mute.
Daryl
button.
today.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
about the hazelnuts. So if you buy them untoasted, how long should you toast them in the oven?
Oh, good question. So essentially, until you start to smell them, you can go check on them. you'll get a little bit of that shine, that natural oil start to come out, and that's when I would remove them. It could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but because your oven, everyone's oven is a little bit different. Hazelnuts, when they're room temp or they're cold, it's going to adjust a little bit. So go more by feel. Right? Once you start to see it, that the natural oils come out, and that you start to smell that toastiness from the hazelnuts, remove them.
Yeah.
If you go too far, it'll burn.
Yeah, that's a good
And you'll taste it. It'll taste sort of bitter
Yeah.
on the outside.
It's not reaching you yet, right? I can smell the hazelnuts right now after the blending.
Yeah, hazelnuts have this just incredible aroma to it. So what we have here-
Tim has a
Oh,
question.
yeah, of course.
If I don't have a blender, can I use something else? Like I use the hazelnut butter?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. But maybe thin it out a little bit with some. You can even warm it up with a little bit of water, or if you're okay with dairy, like milk or cream or something like that, just warm it up just so that it's a little bit thinner. But you can absolutely do that. Yeah, for sure.
Can you use, like, if you still want to add some calories, can you use like a silken tofu, or is that too thick?
No, you can
You
definitely
could
do that.
use a silken tofu.
Yeah, silken tofu is a great way to get that really nice sort of creaminess. You can definitely do that as well. So you have essentially this, okay? So pretty much the same thing. It should be like the consistency of cream. So still pretty thin, but just a little more viscous than water, okay? You can store this, again, you can do this in advance, all right? So you can do this the day before. Day before, 2 days before, this will last in the fridge for like 3 days, no problem, okay? You may start to see it split a little bit. That is just the natural fats from the hazelnuts and the water. And you can just stir that back up, and that's okay. Go ahead and put this into the bottom of your baking dish. So when you're ready to make it, all right? Actually, hold on, wait. One component, two components. I'm thinking about it as we go along.
Okay. We see the creative
Yes.
genius at work here.
The last component. So we have our vegetables. We have our sort of sauce, our cream. And the last component is the gratin. So this crispy breadcrumb on top, right? And you can absolutely just use breadcrumbs. But it's the holidays. We want to make this a little more special. I want the hazelnuts to really sing, right? So half of the hazelnuts we use to make this really nice sauce. The other half, just pulse up. And you can do this by hand. You can chop this by hand. If you have a food processor or a blender, you can do it in the blender. And it just makes it a little bit easier, right? So less prep, less work, less movement. We're going to save ourselves a little bit of time and energy, okay? So just chop it up, the hazelnuts, with some green, anything. You can do dried herbs, or you can do parsley, you can do fresh herbs, you can throw chives, whatever you like, right? And you get pretty much a breadcrumb topping, but it's just the hazelnuts.
Do you want a close up on that? Or
Let's
I
do
wanna
it.
press
Number
the
two,
buttons. Okay.
P2.
P2.
Let's see. Yeah.
There we go. Look at that
We're working now, right?
for the audience at
Yeah.
home.
So that's just the hazelnuts and some parsley. That's it. Okay, and now I have my breadcrumb topping. Again, I can do this in advance. This will stay for 3 to 4 days, no problem in the fridge. If I've used dried herbs instead of fresh herbs, then I can even keep it out. I don't have to keep it in the fridge because I'm using 2 dried components. I haven't introduced any moisture, and so we can just keep it in a Tupperware, right? I'm ready to use, and this is a nice little substitute. So when the day comes, say you're hosting or you want to finish up your dish, we have our 3 main components. We have our cabbage, we have our sauce, and we have our breadcrumb. So any oven-proof pan, dish, baking pan, whatever is easiest to transfer into the oven is what we'll use. And we're going to pour our
Oh,
sauce.
look at that pour.
The action pour. There we go. On the bottom, we're going to use all that. You want enough so that it coats the bottom, and maybe like 5 millimeters up the side. I'm not asking you to bring out a ruler for this, but you can just put enough so that it coats the bottom of the pan. Okay, and then we'll go in with our cabbage, and we'll place that on top. And if you've used a couple different colors, then you can sort of arrange it so that it's nice and pretty. You can do this with other vegetables as well, right? We can do this with, sliced parsnips. We can do this with Brussels sprouts. But if we all have that cabbage in our fridge anyways, this is a nice way to use it up. Okay. Cabbage in. And then
it's looking yummy.
the gratin part. So any sort of cheese that you want to throw on top. Go back to one. You can use like a Gruyere, you can use a cheddar, whatever you like. And we'll just sprinkle it all around.
And so between the Gruyere, the cheese, and the hazelnuts, you're getting that protein we talked about. So the cabbage and the hazelnuts, double duty, gives us fiber. But the hazelnuts and the cheese is giving us that additional protein. And the higher fat cheese, you're just using a little bit of it, so you can determine whether you need to have the higher fat for calories or whether you can have a treat and enjoy the higher fat dairy.
And we'll top that with again, you can just use breadcrumbs to keep it simple, or if you have those toasted chopped up hazelnuts.
I want to take it back. I hope it's not too seesawing for the people at home, but can you see how pretty that is? Maybe not. Okay. I'm getting more comfortable in the kitchen, but I don't know if that's a good idea.
Looks good. We'll go back here for a sec. All right. And then
I'll stop pressing.
Once you have the remote in your hand, it's hard not to.
It's hard not to.
Just a little bit of olive oil on top. Not a lot, and that'll just help to give you some really nice color. And that is ready to go. I mean, it looks beautiful, even uncooked, just as is. That's ready to go into the oven. You can, again, assemble this even in the morning if you want. Wrap it up, put it in the fridge, and then when you're ready to cook it, take it out, and then we'll put it in as is, right? So any of these steps that we can do ahead of time, it's going to make the cooking process a lot less stressful when you actually have to finish up the dish. So into the oven around 400 degrees, just until it is melty and bubbly and looks delicious.
Oh, of course, we have the finished product.
We'll do a little transfer
Not-
here. Alright.
Everyone ready? Here it comes. Oh my. And we get to taste this. I'm sorry, people at home.
Okay.
We can describe it for you.
That is what you're looking for. Some the really nice sort of crispy parts. Go for it. Yeah. I can see your hand reaching.
I know. Yeah, there we go. Because look how pretty. Hot.
Hands hot. Don't touch that. Yeah. The remote you can touch. Don't touch the handles of the pen. All right. So there you go. We have this really, really nice sort of crispy top with the hazelnuts. And that hazelnut sort of sauce or cream on the bottom has sort of reduced and thickened up and sort of created this really nice sort of almost like crust around the outside. It's going to be just super, super tasty. And you have just a little bit of that cheese on top sort of melted through. Because we have layers of that cabbage, sort of falls into those little canals. And you have this really, really nice, delicious dish. With cabbage that's in your fridge that we don't know what to do with.
Okay. This
There we go.
weekend, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And if you do, send us your pictures. Can they?
Yeah, of course.
Jill
Tag
likes
us.
their
Yeah, we
kitchen.
have our social media.
Yeah. Can send it to us. Okay. So, now I'm talking.
Back to
I'll
one,
bring
back
it
to
back to one. So now we're going to go on to our second recipe. And this is the ginger turmeric broth with mushroom wontons. And this is a flavorful soup that's simple and quick to make. And also you can freeze it in advance and then just take it out when you need it for the holidays. Excellent source of plant protein for this one with the tofu. And as we discussed in our first recipe, having some protein as part of the meal can help to reduce the fatigue and provide longer lasting energy. Protein is also very important for healing, especially if you're undergoing treatment. It's also important for muscle building, maintaining your muscle, which is important for mobility and function. So we're getting a good dose of that in this meal. And it's also possible that when your appetite is poor, you're not getting enough nutrition. And so trying to focus on protein intake, getting some protein at each meal of the day is important, because that in and of itself can also help to reduce fatigue. And then lastly, while Jeremy's over here in the sink, the other important nutrient or food item or fluid is water. And so since soups are mostly liquid, we are getting closer to meeting our hydration needs for the day. If you're dehydrated, sometimes that can also be connected with fatigue. So sometimes I talk to people and say, if you're feeling sluggish and tired, maybe one thing to consider is, did you drink enough today? Because sometimes that's what goes out the window. So soup, I know it's Jamie Oliver now? Jeremy's favorite way of increasing his fluid intake, right?
Yeah, I love it. Just because it's a little more flavorful, I guess, than regular water. All right.
And we see we have his favorite item here, parchment paper.
Okay, so you ready to roll?
Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah. Over to you.
Okay, so we're making these little versions of a wonton. It's not like a traditional wonton, but I love making these. We make these at George Brown. I call it with our students all the time, and it's so much fun. And I think it's a nice way to create something that's a little more special. But again, by doing them in advance, we don't have to stress about doing them the day of, right? No one wants to wrap up 20 wontons the day of, right before our guests show up or bring them over, right? So this is an easy thing that we can do in advance. Sorry?
Make the guests do it?
Make the guests do it. Yes.
Yes.
That's a good idea
Actually,
too.
that's a good idea. Have a
Good for
pre-holiday
Yeah.
meal party
Yeah,
where you
yeah,
all... Yeah, I like that idea.
I love that. All right, so I'm going to start with the filling for wontons. This is a mushroom filling. You can make the filling out of anything. We're going with something a little more plant-based today. I love the sort of meatiness and this really nice savoriness that you get from dried mushrooms, especially. So a quarter cup of dried mushrooms. You can use any dried mushrooms you want. Shiitake. These are, I have some black trumpet mushrooms here, and it's like a mix. It looks like there's like some chanterelle, maybe some shiitake. They come in like a little bag, and you don't need a lot, like a quarter cup. You don't need too much. You can definitely use fresh as well, but you definitely get a lot more flavor from these. And all we have to do with our dried mushrooms is soak them in, like we're making a tea, soak them in some hot water. So like steep them for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and what you get is this beautiful flavored liquid afterwards. So because of the black trumpet mushrooms, it's a little bit darker. If you're just using like the lighter mushrooms, you get like a golden color. But this is so flavorful. So we've made almost like a natural mushroom stock or broth just by using the dried mushrooms, right? So we're getting 2 products out of the one, which is nice. So we'll save this.
We had some questions.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't realize that you could see me in the camera doing that. We had some questions from the first recipe. I don't know if you want to
I'll circle
wait
back.
till the end.
Yeah. I'll circle
Okay.
back. I see you. I'll circle
Yeah.
back. All right. So dried mushrooms, after they've been soaked, nice and soft, we'll go into our food processor. If we don't have a food processor, we can definitely chop this up by hand as well, for sure. Okay. The scallions. So we're using some green onions. The bottom part, so the white part in the bottom, you can slice that and use that as a garnish. At the end, all the green parts are going to go in. I have a clove of garlic and about a tablespoon of fresh ginger. That's going to go inside as well. Any aromatics, anything to make this really, really tasty, go for it. Okay, you do not have to follow exactly what I'm doing here. And I want to start by pulsing this up, breaking this down a little bit first before I introduce the rest of my ingredients. Just to break it up a little bit.
We're using pesto vinegar.
All right, so broken up And just by pulsing it, you can probably smell the ginger and the
Let me see,
garlic.
what do I smell? Oh, I smell the garlic.
The ginger for sure.
A little bit of the ginger, but
Yeah.
there's something else I'm smelling. Oh, the mushrooms. The mushrooms.
There you go. And we'll add some other flavors to this as well. So I have a little bit of hoisin sauce. We're gonna get a little bit of that sweet, a little bit of that savory, a little bit of that saltiness in there as well. And one of my favorite ingredients. This is black vinegar. You might see this Chinese black vinegar. There's a few different varieties that you can find. This is incredible. This is like, for me, a must-have in the pantry. It is a great way to really add a nice depth of flavor to your dishes. You can add the broths, you can add it to dipping sauces, you can add the fillings. It is essentially like a fermented malted grain, usually rice, depending on what variety you get it. It might come from a different part of China. This one here is from just a rice that's fermented, and it has this really incredible maltiness to it. You can find it in Toronto. You can probably find it in more grocery stores now. Definitely, if you go to like a T&T or something like that, you'll definitely get it. But this is, I think this would be one of the most popular condiments out there right now. So good.
So of course I had to do some research on it. Already, if you got it right, fermented rice, unpolished black or brown rice.
Yeah.
But what's also interesting is that it may contain polyphenols, and polyphenols are a type of antioxidant. So you're getting some added benefit from the black vinegar.
Awesome. Okay, so that is going in, and then for my protein, we'll add some tofu. You can use extra firm or medium. Those crumble up really nicely. I don't want to make the mixture too wet. Okay, so the firmer tofus tend to have more of the water out of it, and then you can give it an extra squeeze with some paper towel just to get some of that excess water out. And again, the food processor, it will do most of the work for me. So just want to make it fit inside. And then,
Question
Yes.
from the audience.
Can we use cottage cheese?
Yeah.
Firm cottage cheese instead?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can use a firm cottage cheese. You can use a minced chicken, like if you want to use an animal-based protein, you can definitely use that as well, for sure.
And you know what the quick and easy dirty thing is for minced chicken? I'll see what Jeremy thinks of this. But
Yes.
you could buy the toddler meats, right? Like it's already broken down.
Oh, yeah.
And there aren't any additives to it. So just, what you have for instead of not the babies but the toddlers.
Yeah.
Which I think is a little bit
Yeah.
It sounds weird, but if we're looking at convenience,
For sure.
Exactly.
Great. Yeah, awesome suggestion. All right, pulse it up again until it pretty much looks like a mince, okay? You might need to stuff, if you're using a food processor, you might need to just scrape down the sides once or twice, but it should take 30 seconds in total. Yeah, that's it. So, we have our little mince ready to go. It doesn't look the prettiest, but it's going to taste incredible, and it also smells unbelievable. Again, this is a filling that you can make in advance. So if you know what, I only have time and energy to whip the filling together today, and that's what I'm doing. This can go into a Tupperware, and it can go into the fridge for 2 to 3 days. No problem. The flavors will start to incorporate a little bit better.
can it
at that
go
point.
in the freezer, or you
You
recommend
can go,
like,
yeah.
put it
You could definitely
in
do it in the
further
freezer.
advance?
You can
Yeah.
definitely do it in the freezer, and then you would just defrost it. You might get some moisture separation,
Moisture?
but that's okay. You can let that drain off because I actually don't want too much moisture.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Just thinking, you don't want to do everything the day before now, or 2 days before. So
Yeah.
maybe there's some things you can do in advance.
Yeah. All right. So we have our filling ready to go, and that can go in the fridge if I'm not using it right away. If I am, then we are ready to make our little wontons, and we need our wrappers. Do you want to make your dough from scratch? Go for it. Absolutely. This is why they make these wrappers, so we don't have to. And again, you can almost every grocery store should have these now accessible. Yes, question.
Are those similar to like egg rolls?
A little bit. So this would be with just flour. This you can steam. The egg roll wrappers, depending on the ones you get, you may have to. Most of them are intended to be fried, but some of them are thin enough that you can use it the same way. But these ones will be dumpling wrappers. They should be like wonton wrappers or dumpling wrappers.
They're a little different.
A little thinner.
consistency.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
All
Yeah, really, really nice and thin. And
And
this,
here I thought you were going to be doing it from scratch.
yeah, no. These are so good. And like if I was making even like a ravioli or a pasta from scratch, right? Or if I just want something as like a filled dumpling, these are a great alternative to that as well because I can make whatever filling I want and then put them inside. So
cool. It also has some protein. So yeah,
So
7 grams
yes,
per wrapper.
per wrapper,
Per one. Right?
one,
Per one.
maybe one
all of
package,
One package.
maybe one package.
Yeah, because per wrapper.
Yeah, that
Why
would
isn't
be,
it a
yeah. One package makes a little.
one package?
One package.
Okay. Otherwise, it would be a protein supplement that we all
Yes.
be taking in.
All right, so you can do these one at a time. The key is you don't want them to dry out. Luckily, these don't dry out too fast, but you can just sort of keep whatever you're not using in the package. These freeze really well, so you can throw them in the freezer. Like just wrap them up really well. You can throw them in the freezer and defrost whenever you need to use it. I'll show you how to do. We'll do 6 now. But when I was doing it this morning, I was doing like 24 time, and this is a nice little technique that I learned from somebody. So essentially, what you want to do is get a little bit of water. You can use a brush. You can use your finger, and you want to wet the edge, right? If I'm doing a lot at once, that's going to take a hell of a lot of time. So I use my little spray bottle with my water, and I just mist the top. I only need a little bit. Yeah, that's good. Missed the top. So now that took much less time. We're going to take about a teaspoon of my mixture. I don't want to overfill it. Okay. Just show you as an example. I'll do one as an example, and then maybe I'll throw it back to you. All right. So we're filling in the middle, and then what we want to do is we're using our fingers. We're going to take the back, and we're going to roll it up to the front, and then use sort of the edge of my thumb to squeeze out the air. Okay? And just gently press it down. Because of that water that's on there, it'll act like a glue. Okay? Now, if I want to, from here, I can turn this into whatever shape I want. If I want to go a little more traditional, and so you can wrap them all up like that. We'll go a little spray. I can take those ends like this and then overlap them like that and just pinch. And we have our little sort of wonton little dumpling ready to go. But festive time, I found a fun way to wrap these up so that they look a little different.
Like Christmas hats?
Yeah, not Christmas hats. No, watch. So we'll do a couple here. So again, back, roll it over the front. Try not to get any of that filling on the edge, otherwise it won't seal. That seal will open up. But use your thumbs to sort of make sure all the air is out, right? And then back to that water. Just a little spritz. And then I'll roll it over like this. Press down, and then just pinch the end so it looks like a little, almost like a little candy, a little caramel, or a little
A teeny tiny
Christmas cracker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So flip, pinch.
When did you come up with that?
Uh,
While you were
so
sleeping?
no. So this is there's a pasta that's made like this called the caramella, which is
Yeah. True.
a caramel or a candy, and I'm like it looks so festive, right? So
Yeah.
it's like something a little bit
That's
different.
great.
And you can do whatever sort of shape you want with that. All right, I'll wrap the last of these up. And pinch the ends.
we talk sometimes about mindful eating, and Jeremy introduced me to mindful cooking. So this looks like it would be, with some music in the background, just making a few. Were you feeling very mindful this morning when you made 24?
Not so much. We had a show today to prepare for, but yes, you're right. This can be definitely an opportunity to just zone out a little bit. Okay, the last one there. So I've just made a few. For example, if we're ready to cook these from fresh, they take like 1 minute to 2 minutes. They don't take long at all into our boiling water. But like I said, these can be made in advance and then frozen. And I love creating these because they're so much easier to manage, right? You have all your little wontons ready to use. Once you freeze them individually solid like this, then transfer them to a freezer bag. Okay, don't put them all in a freezer bag, and then because you're gonna have one giant wonton, everything's gonna be stuck together. Yeah, but freeze them individually, and then once they're like this, and putting them on the parchment just makes it really easy to take off. You can transfer all of these into a freezer bag, and then use them whenever you need to use them. And as long as they're sealed and you don't have a lot of air exposure, these will last like 3 months, no problem, in the freezer.
And probably the other thing, like we're standing up in the kitchen, you're doing this standing up, but there's nothing stopping you from going to the table and sitting down, or if you have a counter, sitting down, and that might also help to conserve some energy. Yes. Which is probably the way I
That's a good tip with the freezing. I do that with my fruit. I don't do that with my fruit, and then I get
The
a
clump?
clump of berries.
Yes.
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 Oh yes. Yeah.
Or a
Freeze.
clump of bananas.
Yeah. Now, depending on the size of your freezer, it might be hard, but like get a tray that you know, okay, this will fit in my freezer, something flat. And then if you're freezing fruit, if you're freezing dumplings, if you made little meatballs, whatever it is, flat, frozen solid, and then you can transfer it afterwards. Yeah, anything that you can freeze will just save you for those days where, just don't feel like doing prep, don't have the energy to do prep. Okay.
Any questions? I'm just wondering.
So I'll get back. So,
just-
how much water, hazelnuts?
Oh, that was
yeah.
I just wondered for the second recipe.
No, not
Ready?
yet.
No.
I didn't
Okay.
forget you. I will get back to your question. All right, so we have, whether we froze them, the wrappers, or made them in advance, we can go ahead and put these in some boiling water when we're ready to cook it. I'll throw it in now, just so we can finish the dish.
When
Take the
you
bowl.
mix it, the wonton, or sort of it's just a matter of it's just bind the together. Right?
Yes, exactly. It's like a glue.
Yeah.
So it's already dusted with like a fine flour on top. So once you add the water, it just helps it to stick together. That's it. And you don't need a lot. And you don't need that. If you're doing a lot, I just find it a lot easier. You can just use either a brush or just dab your finger in some water and sort of just dab the corners. Anything that you want to attach to stick together, just a little bit of water and a little bit of pressure, and it'll stick together. No, not for these.
Yeah.
For pasta, you usually do, but because this is already sort of dusted,
Yeah.
then you don't need to. Just water over. Okay, so about a minute or two until they start to bob up. And then for our broth, that we're going to serve it with, I want to make this simple. I don't want to fuss too much, but flavor is important. So what I'm doing is bring some water to a boil, and we're going to add 2 aromatics. It's going to give some really nice flavor, some really nice color. There's some ginger here, just some fresh ginger. You can use ground ginger as well. And this is turmeric. This is fresh turmeric, which is a root. It's a tuber, just like the ginger. And so when you peel it, you have a really nice, very typical orange, vibrant color. But the aroma, it's not as intense and almost slightly bitter as your ground. It has this like freshness, very similar to ginger that you get when you use the fresh. You can use either or. So I'm using fresh. We're using about a tablespoon of fresh, tablespoon to 2 tablespoons, depends on how much you're making. And if I'm using dried, we'll use about half of that ground. Okay. And essentially what we'll do is take some of the ginger. Once that water starts boiling, we'll grate it
Just
right
grate
in.
it right over top, saving
right over
another.
top. Yeah. I don't know what my hair is doing today. It's just wants to get over my eyes. I'll throw some of that ginger in there as well. Really nice and fresh. And then you can use a chicken broth. You can use vegetable broth for this, or in a pinch, what I like to use is even like a little bit of miso, paste. You can throw it in because it's going to give you that nice flavor. But whatever you want, even like a no sodium bouillon or low sodium bouillon, just to make it easy for you, right? Sometimes those convenient products can really be helpful.
I do like the mix of the ginger and the turmeric, right? Like the ginger also, we're talking about fatigue, but there's also, if you're feeling a bit nauseated or just unwell, can help you feel a little bit better. It can help with digestion too, and the feeling of nausea. And then turmeric, we hear a lot about the benefits of the curcumin, which is the active ingredient in there. So it can have a little bit of an anti-inflammatory effect. Could also act as an antioxidant, which can help to mop up what we call free radicals, or those unstable molecules that happen just through stress, aging, treatment, right? So it can help with that. And our favorite, can I go on?
May I have your attention, please?
No, I can't.
Coat white, ground floor, Gerard Wing, Chemo West.
Sorry.
Coat white, ground floor, Gerard Wing, Chemo West. Coat white, ground floor, Gerard Wing, Chemo West.
So what I was going to say, Jeremy and I like to have our food power couples. I don't know, are they going to say it again? Okay. So the turmeric, if you couple the turmeric together with black pepper, some of you are familiar with this combination. So there's a little black pepper in there. The piperine, which is the active ingredient in black pepper, helps you absorb 2,000% more. 2,000% more. I had to look that up a few times, right? To verify that, of the curcumin in the turmeric. So putting just a little bit of black pepper is helpful.
Should it be in a pan, like frying, or is it enough that if I just mix them and add it to a milk and put it in the microwave? It works again the same?
Yeah, it works the same. Yeah, the way,
Oh.
And do you have to have it in the same meal, or
That's a good question.
can I have like one thing?
I think it may be better in the same meal,
okay.
but I'll have to look that up for everybody. That I'm not 100% sure.
All right. So the ginger, the turmeric, if you've added some miso or some sort of broth, and then don't forget you have that mushroom broth. They're really, really nice and flavorful mushroom broth. Add that as well, just to fortify it. It's going to taste incredible. And then we've removed our little wontons. You can do about 3 to 4 per person. I put them all in here. So we have 6. It's the holidays. And then we're going to ladle. And it has this, like, just from the turmeric, this incredible golden color.
And the broth is also something you can make it out, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah. All of this is intended to be designed so that you can make it, freeze it. The broth you could freeze. Or, again, it's just the ginger and the turmeric, so you can do it the day of. You can definitely do it in advance. And then some of those green onion tops. We'll throw in.
is your mouth watering?
Our festive mushroom wontons here with their ginger turmeric broth. We'll lift one of these wontons out here. Love the little ends.
The little bonbons.
Little bonbons right there.
I guess we could have called it mushroom bonbons. So
Yeah, really confusing for people. That's it. That's recipe number 2.
Excellent.
All right.
Excellent. So moving right along, what we have now, our last recipe is a mulled apple ginger cider. So as I alluded to a little bit in our second recipe, We talked about maintaining your fluid intake can help to reduce fatigue, can also help with brain cognition, your alertness. And so the hydration reduces fatigue by making sure that our body is working normally, or instead of saying normally, better, working at best as it can. And by preventing the dehydration, then you don't have that tired or sluggish feeling. So that's one of the factors about hydration and fatigue. And so this masterpiece of a mocktail combines the familiar flavors of the holiday and is an easy way to stay hydrated. So it's also a great option for alcoholic drinks, right? Because during the holidays, there's always a lot of alcohol around. And this is one way of still enjoying the season, but not having to worry about, I want to say no to that alcoholic drink. And if you're going to someone's home, it might be something I say, hey, I'm going to bring this drink along and for yourself and for others to try. And unlike the alcoholic drink, you can count every ounce of it towards your fluid intake for the day. And you don't get that hangover the next day. Not that I know anything about it.
All right, so we want to bring all the spices. All the spices in your pantry, take them out, brush them off. We're going to be using this in our mulled cider, so we want to infuse it with all of these incredible sort of flavors, these baking spices, and a little bit goes a long way, but this is where you can sort of steep it to your preference, okay? First thing we're going to do is get our apples. I've peeled them. You can just leave them as is. Just wash them really well. Take out the core, the middle, and bring a large pot, whatever you need in terms of amounts, to a boil, water to a boil, just water. Add our apple chunks, pieces in there, and we'll cover the lid and just let them sort of simmer just until they're nice and soft, okay? So pretty much until they're starting to fall apart. And then we'll take it out with a slotted spoon. So this is easier. I find it easier to do this first and then add your spices in. Because then you're mucking around with all of those. Yes?
Is there a specific kind of apple that...
Oh, good question. Use your favorites. I find that this works with all different types of apples. The sweeter apples, so things like Honeycrisp, they tend to add a little bit more of their own sweetness. So then at the end, I find that if I want to add a little more sweetness, like honey or something, I don't need as much because I get a lot of flavor from the apple. But this works with anything. It's not like I'm not baking a pie or anything. So any apple you like.
How about with the garlic? Could we use applesauce?
Yes, you can use applesauce. Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Yes, if people didn't hear that at home, great option is applesauce.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love that. Love
Yeah.
that.
Great idea. I have some applesauce at home as well as the cabbage sitting in the fridge.
Yeah.
So I'm almost
Separate.
there with the ingredients.
Yeah, for sure. So we're putting in our apples with a little bit of the water. I don't need too much, and I'll see if it's too thick, then I can add a little bit more. But a little bit of the water that I've cooked it in, and we'll blend this up. Or it can be just applesauce. Absolutely. Blend it up. We're making applesauce. That's what we're doing.
I love doing classes here, but I really miss the real classes that I had at home.
Yeah, no mute button here. So just until it's nice and thin, and we have this like really, really nice sort of thick apple puree applesauce. That's essentially what it is, right? And with this, we're gonna go back into the pot that I've had cooked the apples in initially, because I don't want it super thick. This is going to help to thicken up that cider, so it's not just like thin, like super thin like water. So it has a little bit more of that mouthfeel to it, which would be really nice. And so back into the pot. It's the holidays. We have all the pots and pans out here today.
Delegation is always good too. So what you can do, if there is another person in the house or a couple people, I hate the cleanup, so that might be something that I would delegate to someone else to do. That also helps with fatigue.
So,
Yeah, try. Okay. Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Yeah. All right, so all that apple puree back into that pot. So we're gonna get all the apple flavor in there.
Can you
Now
smell?
it's broken down.
Yeah, that you can smell.
And then in there is where we'll add, at this point is when we're going to add our aromatics, okay? So cinnamon sticks, ginger, clove, we've got some star anise here. I know you want to do it.
I do. I was very fascinated. Is this
Orange peels
Orange
or
peel,
tangerine
okay, I was like-
peel on the outside. That you'll get those essential oils from it, speaking of. So that can steep pretty much in this pot until it's tasty enough to your liking. And then we can remove them afterwards, or you can keep them in if you want it a little bit more flavorful. And then right before you're ready to serve, we can add a little bit of orange, that clementine, tangerine, just that juice.
What about adding that in the crock pot? Can you just stick that in there and let it just simmer for the day too?
Which one, sorry?
A crock pot.
crock pot?
Oh yeah, of course, absolutely. Crock pot would be great just to let it simmer. Now, keep in mind that the longer it sits in there, you're going to be really infusing those spices. So if like I like star anise, but it has that licoricey sort of flavor, it could be a little too much. If it's in a crock pot for like a long time, but you can always just remove those spices when you're ready, and then just continue to let it simmer in the crock pot. All right, that little bit of that tangerine or that clementine in there.
And it depends to you how you're doing with the aromas in your home. Like if there's if you're triggered, if the nausea is triggered by aromas. There's also a little bit of a difference between scented candles. Like sometimes I don't know if a lot of people are using scented candles still. No, right? But instead of scented candles, this is a more natural option. It's also something that you can enjoy yourself afterwards too.
All right, so when you're ready to go, we can serve this up. Now, we made a big pot, because we have hundreds of people here today. Lots of apple cider to serve up.
So many.
But this is something also we can do in advance. Okay, so if I'm going to a holiday party, this is what I'm bringing. You can make it in advance. Let it cool down, and I do this with my soups, which I love. Is get yourself. These muffin tins are fantastic. I love these for freezing things. These silicone muffin tins. You can ladle that cider into your muffin tins, freeze it until solid, and because it's flexible, I could just pop the bottom, and I have my little cider pucks ready to go. Right? So then I can put these in a freezer bag, and this can last me the whole winter if I wanted. Right? You have the cider puck, and if I just wanted one, put it in a mug, put it in the microwave, or I can put 8 of them in a pot and warm it up, and it's ready to go for my party.
Yeah. No, what I was going to say, just that sometimes we hear a lot of people saying they're tired of drinking water. So what a great idea to just have to pop one of these things out and warm it up.
Yeah. We'll serve a couple up here. Festive mugs from Daniela. Now, if you're serving, what you could do is strain it all out, the whole thing out, because of all the spices. And the cloves and everything. We'll serve one up. And adjust to your flavor, sweetness, right? If you want to add a little bit of honey, then you can add a little bit of honey to that as
smells
well.
great.
This will be quite spiced because it's been simmering for a few hours. A lot of ginger.
can smell the ginger.
Too spiced, maybe. And there we go. And that's our last recipe. Cheers! Cheers to you as well. And thank you for joining us.
Very good. Very good.
If you have any notes to finish off, I'm going to answer the questions here quickly.
No, I don't have any notes to finish off, but I hope that this gave you some ideas for the holidays, things you can do in advance, whether you're the host or not. So like if you're going to someone's home, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, like if you're going to someone's home and you're not feeling so well, it's a good idea to just talk to the host ahead of time, just so they don't like center you out at the meal, like why aren't you eating? Talk to the host in advance, say, you know, I want to come, just don't feel 100%. I'm going to come at the beginning, I'm going to come at the end. I might bring my own food item with me, and that's all they need. And they'll be happy that you let them know that. And that'll also make you feel a bit more comfortable too. Yeah.
Fantastic. And then just to address, thanks everyone watching at home. So you can join us today. Question regarding the first recipe. You can use other nuts. You don't have to use hazelnuts. You can do that with cashews. Cashews actually soften a little bit quicker. So that would work really well. You can use almonds as well. And then the water amount is about a cup of water or broth with your half a cup of the nuts. Okay. All these recipes here today, for those watching at home, will be on our website tomorrow. Okay. If you're here, you have the recipes you can take home with you. And we're always here. We're always here.
He's
but
always here.
third
We
Thursday
don't let him out.
of every month, you can always check out our Community Connections class in our kitchen. You can definitely come by, drop in. We're going to serve up some of this food today for everyone that's here. But you don't have to register. You can bring anyone you want, 12 to 1, every third Thursday. And we're back in 2025
January
on
16th.
January 16th. So hope to see you then. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to everyone. And we'll see you on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Stay safe. Okay, now the fun part.
Save me some, I'm too much.
Okay,
All right.
thanks for coming, Dimitri.